Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the next Quick Wins webinar. Today we'll be getting inside the mindset of your buyer. This is a webinar with the BVRLA's Learning and Development team this morning. Thanks so much for being here. It's really lovely to have you. This is part of our Quick Wins webinar series, 45 minutes just to see a little insight into one of our instructor-led training courses. If I can have the next slide, we'll have a little look at competition law today. So we just need to be aware of topics of discussion. It is one-way traffic today, apart from in the Q&A tab. So we will be vetting questions, etc. But just be aware of what we can and can't discuss today. So we won't be looking at prices, price changes, terms and sale, and profit margins today. Just be aware of this. Looking at a bit of housekeeping, Q&As, please use the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen. There will be a little session at the end for questions, so please pop those in there. That would be lovely. And I am joined today by Roy McDonald, who is our NLP trainer here at the BVRLA. So welcome, Roy. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. So I've been working with Roy for, 6 years, I think. So I know him pretty well. But for those that don't know Roy, he is an NLP master practitioner. You're definitely in safe hands today. His background's in sales, management and leadership within several sectors, including the automotive and ERP industries. He's been successful in training and coaching individuals and senior managers, helping them achieve their business and personal goals. So yeah, you're definitely in safe hands today. I'm going to hand over to Roy just to go through the agenda for today. And he will take you through the next 45 minutes. Thanks, Roy.
Thank you, Tess. Thank you. You're too kind. So by the end of the 45 minutes of this webinar, I'm going to give you a better understanding of how NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, can help in your business and also in your personal life. So it's not just about business. I'm going to give you a preview of some of the tools and strategies that you could use, and also give you an understanding of what I class as magic words. What are magic words? And these are words that some of the big organizations like Marks and Spencer's, John Lewis, and any sort of company with their marketing budget will use to actually influence and get you guys to part with your money. So we'll talk about that later on. Okay. Next slide, please. As Tess said, very brief background. I've been in the industry for 30 odd years. Worked with a company called Kalamazoo Carriage. Dealer management software was a product that I used to train people on, and then I got involved in selling it. So I did that right up until 2015. And around about 2010, I decided that I wanted to do something slightly different. And that's when I was introduced to neuro-linguistic programming. So for the last 14 years, I took it to the next level, became a trainer, practitioner, became a master practitioner, and also I'm now qualified, which isn't on the screen, to train people to become practitioners of NLP and to become master practitioners. One of the things that really attracted me to the whole NLP process and tools and strategies is that it is geared towards helping you shift your behavior and improve on yourself by modeling people that are really good at what they do. And that involves a bit of hypnotherapy as well. So I'm a qualified hypnotherapist, clinical. I'm not going to get you guys to actually cluck like a chicken or do anything silly whilst you're online, but I'll explain to you how we can use some of those words, again, for persuading and influencing. And it's words that are used every single day. Next slide, please. So questions. How do you ensure you stay focused, motivated, structured, and proactive? I have a lot of people turn around to me and say, yeah, well, I'm not motivated, or I can't stay focused, or whatever it may be. And it's a can't. And they're not proactive and maybe reactive. Well, how do you change that mindset? How do you develop a sharp mindset, a razor sharp mindset? How do you actually develop that sort of hunger and that desire to succeed? Is it in you? Can it be in you? And how do you connect and build rapport? Now, a lot of us on the call will think that they're really good at building rapport. And that is part of your job. Of course it is. But how do you take it to the next level? I call it stepping up the relationship. And when it comes to building rapport and then going through the sales process, how good are you, or how effective are you at actually closing? Are you a good closer? Mediocre closer? Are you the best closer in the world? And if you are the best closer, could you improve on your closing skills? Next slide, please. Good. So what is NLP? I've given you these sort of, that's the acronym, it's Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Let me give you a bit of background to where it started and certainly the individuals that were involved in the beginning. So neuro, as it says there, is all about the nervous system. And the nervous system is where we see the world through our five senses. Our five senses are visual, auditory, which is ears, kinesthetic, which is touch, olfactory, which is smell, and gustatory, which is taste. Those are our five senses, and those five senses will sort of shape our experience and how we see the world. Right from you were a baby, you will have actually stored a lot of information in your unconscious mind, and I'm going to go into that in a bit more detail. And it stays there for a very long time. You have the biggest computer in the world, and so those senses will kind of actually lead us towards what we class as programs. But before I go on to programs, let me tell you about the linguistic side. What I'm going to cover today is the language that we use. And it's not just the verbal language, it's also our body language. How does that work in terms of how we can use our language to good effect? Are we saying the right words? Are we actually noticing the language that people are portraying? In other words, are we looking at what, are the words matching what's their body is saying? In other words, their physiology, is it completely different to what they're saying? We're going to look at the linguistic side and the language patterns that are used. And then the last part is the programming. So because we've got our neuros or neuro pathways, let's call it our neurological pathways. Every single one of us will develop pathways that, and these are trillions of neurons that will connect in our brain, which causes us to behave in a certain way. Some behave where we have good habits and some will have bad habits. Those neurons, once they connect to each other and they know where they're going, and they know what route to take, and that becomes your habit, and let's say it's not a good habit, can we change that route? Can we create new neural pathways? New neural pathways, which means it's a change of behavior? Well, of course we can. And if we change the way that we sort of behave, what we'll then do is run a program. And that program is a new program with a new behavior. So instead of going down that path that isn't serving you well, we change it to a path that is serving you well. And that's what programming is all about. Next slide, please. So I actually think about NLP in a number of ways, one of which is noticing what people are doing. So you'll hear different definitions of NLP, the study of human experience, communication, thinking, language, and behavior. And how it came about is actually understanding how people do what they do. How do they do what they do? What is it about an individual that makes that person so special? And then the question will be, well, can I do the same thing? Or what's stopping me from being like that individual? It's noticing individuals, noticing what they're doing unconsciously, noticing what they're doing consciously. Modeling excellence, and this is something I cover on the one-day course in some depth, is I often hear people, and I've also been a sales manager, I often hear people talk about, geez, I'm just not like him or her, I can't do it. Well, straight away you can hear the words, can't, I'm not like him. There's a bit of negativity there, and the belief pattern goes out the window because they don't believe they're capable of doing what they need to do. Well, actually, we all have the resources to change our outcome, desired outcome, and all we've got to do is start believing that we can do those things. And I don't mean just talk about, having these positive affirmations. I mean actually doing it. And NLP gives you some of the tools and strategies to enable you to do things that you want to do to get a better outcome. Next slide, please. The guys that started, a guy called John Grinder and Richard Bandler, they were fascinated with how people do what they do. When I say fascinated, they were fascinated with three therapists in the main, Fritz Perls, Virginia Satir, and Milton Erickson. All these guys were all therapists, and they were able to shift people and we call it paradigm shift, to change their behavior so they had a positive result or a positive outcome. In other words, if somebody was depressed, how can we sort of change that sort of depression to a positive state? If somebody was feeling low self-esteem, no confidence, if somebody had, I don't know, a massive phobia against selling or spiders, how do we change that sort of the phobia so that they no longer exist? And so what they did is they studied people and they put it into what we class as a framework and a model. They studied how people do what they do to be good at what they do. They studied how someone can change from being afraid to not being afraid of certain things like spiders or snakes or whatever it may be. They studied how people performed at a high level by watching other people. And they did this for some time and created this model called neuro-linguistic programming. And what happened in the 70s, the late 70s, that sales companies or people that were selling their wares got hold of it and decided, well, actually, this is really good stuff. It's very powerful. It's very powerful to actually persuade and influence people. And so it then became part of a, let's say, a standard selling tool for a lot of individuals, because it was so powerful in terms of shifting people. So what I say to people is this: if you have a hammer, if I gave you a hammer and you to use a hammer, you'd use it to bang or bang a nail, I would say. Yeah, that's what you do with a hammer. But if put it in the wrong hands, someone could use a hammer for the wrong reasons. And NLP got a bad rap in the early days because people were using it for the wrong reasons. Used ethically and in the right way, it is very powerful to actually shift you as an individual and give you what I class as a positive outcome. Next slide, please. So where can we use it? The application could be used in a number of different areas. So business, coaching, therapy, education. In fact, a lot of schools now are taking or adopting that process for teaching kids. Some kids are visual, some kids are auditory, some kids are kinesthetic. Sports psychologists use them. You know, whether you're a professional golfer, tennis player, footballer, they're all using. Some of the politicians have actually gone down the route of using NLP. Some very, very, very influential people are using NLP. And personal development. If you're not developing yourself, who else is going to develop you? Personal development is about you taking hold of what you do now and improving on what you can do by using some of the strategies and tools that we're going to talk about. Next slide, please. So the personal development side is this. I'm very, very passionate about personal development. I like improving on what I do. I like developing myself. I like pushing boundaries. I like actually challenging the brain. I like challenging the brain and exercising the brain. So personal development is about you sort of taking board of or taking stock of what you're good at doing, what you're not good at doing, and improving on all the areas that you want to improve on, without actually accepting the fact that you can't do anything about it. If you're thinking in a positive way, and if we think about a growth mindset, and some of you will hear or know of a lady called Carol Dweck. Carol Dweck is also a psychologist, and she talks about the growth and the fixed mindset. I like my clients to have a growth mindset. In other words, going forward, asking the right questions to move them forward. And when you use NLP in business, you'll find that managers, senior management teams use it to actually get the best out of their team, to increase their performance and also theirs. So when we say, how can we use NLP? It is really about shifting who you are as an individual to a higher level than you possibly can think that you can get to. Next slide, please. So how do you stay focused? How do you stay motivated, structured, and be proactive? It's a good question, isn't it? How many of you here believe that you're proactive, very proactive? How many of you lose motivation, lose the will to make a call? And sometimes we wake up in the morning and we just feel like, we're no energy. We just think, oh, here we go again. It's like Groundhog Day, and you got to motivate yourself. Sometimes it happens. How do we stay proactive instead of being reactive? How do we look for other areas? You know, the best way to do this and to think about this is to constantly coach yourself. You know, sometimes we talk about people going to, or people now it's more so than ever, people have personal coaches. And those coaches ask the right questions to move you forward. nothing to stop you from doing that. You can ask yourself these questions. You just need to know how and what sort of questions to ask. Next slide, please. So what the belief side, right? So when I talk about believing in yourself, being structured, being motivated, believing that you have the ability to go out there and actually be the best salesperson that you could ever be, to have the belief that you can go out there and make a call and close the deal, to have the belief that you fit in to the environment that you're working in, that you're a team player, to have the belief that you are capable of doing a lot more than you currently are. Our beliefs about what we are and what we can be precisely determine what we will be. And beliefs are very powerful. And so often I change people, whilst I'm not training, I do one-to-ones with individuals, and I train people to believe in themselves. Because if you don't believe in yourself, who else is going to believe in you and believe that you have the ability to do things? So rather than say you can't, it actually is you can. You know, we've all grown up in the world where your parents will say there's no such thing as can't. There's no such thing as can't. You can. But yet when we become adults, we sort of use that word over and over again. I can't. Well, believe you can. What the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. Napoleon Hill, and he wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich, which is a very good book. Believe that you can. Next slide, please. So beliefs cause, and this is a circle or recurring circle, which I like, I've got to be honest with you, because beliefs can get you the results, and the results will lead to strengthening your beliefs, and then the results, and then the more beliefs, and guess what? The more you do it, the more you believe in yourself, the more that you believe that you're capable of doing more than you can do right now, which means you've got all the resources in you to do that. You start seeing an improvement. Your performance starts to change. I once said to somebody who came on my course, they talked about anger management, road rage. I don't know if any of you on this call suffer with road rage. And road rage is a very dangerous thing, because you become so fixated on getting the person that's either cut you up or winding your window down. I say winding it down, pressing the electric button now, winding your window down to actually have a go at the individual, losing the plot, chasing them down, whatever it may be. So anger management and controlling the anger is possible, right? But yet people choose to act and behave in that certain way, and could be detrimental. It could cause an accident, for example. And so then you find that some people go on anger management course. Well, what's the idea of going on an anger management course? To change your behavior, to reduce that level of anger, or to control the anger that you have, which means it's possible. We make choices. The choices that you make to be angry is your choice. Now you're going to say, Roy, come on. If somebody says something or does something to you, you can't help but being angry. You're absolutely right. Emotions are very strong. What I'm saying to you is that you can control those emotions. You can change the way that you think about certain situations, which will change the way that you feel, which will change your outcome, which is the behavior. And when we talk about results, believing in you, believing that you're capable of doing more, is a shift of a feeling, which ultimately changes into a positive behavior. I'll let you digest that for a second, for those of you who are road ragers. Next slide, please. So how do you develop that razor-sharp mindset with the desire to succeed? Desire to succeed. I would hope that people on this call are on the call because you want to know how you can be a better version of yourself. The attraction of coming on the call was actually understanding or finding out what it is that I can do to become, better at what I do. That's what I'm thinking. Well, if that's what you're thinking, and that's the right route to be on, be inquisitive, ask questions of how I can develop or be a better version of myself. And so when we think about personal development, when we think about having that razor sharp mindset, is whenever you do something well, ask yourself the question, how can I actually improve on what I have just done? let's not settle for just being good. How can I be even better? For those of you who are not performing at a level that you need to perform at, you ask yourself the question, what do I need to do to perform at a higher level? Believe that you have the ability to succeed. I call it, making an assumption, assuming the sale. Next slide, please. One of the things that was said to me in the very early days of me sort of training as a practitioner is, Roy, what do you want? What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve from coming on the course? Which is a very interesting question. At the time, I said, well, I just want to be, better at what I do. Didn't really have a clear, defined outcome. I didn't really know. And so often when we ask the question, what is it that you want? Where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve? Sometimes people, they haven't really got an idea. But it's worth asking the question, because eventually the answer does appear. So I say to people, decide on what you want as your destination, decide on what you want as your outcome. And then what will happen is you will start taking actions or steps to get to your outcome. I've written a book called Drive to Peak Performance, which is all about your destination. And in there, I talk about what it is, what do you want, which is your destination. And some of us drift. We drift like a log on a water, drifting with no direction, which is what happens to a lot of people. And then at some point you get oars, and the oars will steer you into the direction that you want to go. And that direction is to succeed, to look after your house, look after your family, look after your, to have whatever life you want. It's not just about money. That book that I mentioned earlier on, which Simon Sinek, which is Know Your Outcome, Understand Your Why, Have a Purpose, is important, because that's what's going to drive you. That's what's going to drive you towards getting your outcome. For me, right now, believe it or not, I'm coming towards not the end of my working career, but I'm leading towards retirement. In 3 years' time, I will be 65, and I am looking to work. The work that I'm doing now, my desired outcome is to spend more time with my children, or grandchildren, I should say, not children because they're adults, with grandchildren, travel a lot more than I've ever traveled, and play a lot more golf than I've ever traveled. That's why I'm doing what I do. That's my outcome. Know what you want. Your brain's a muscle, and therefore you need to exercise it. Here's something I want you to do. When you actually, and this just goes out to all the women. Let's do the women first, and then we'll do the men. Women, when you actually wake up in the morning and you go, you have a shower, you get dressed, and if you do wear makeup, or even if you don't wear makeup, this still applies, all right? Because we can do it to a number of different things. We'll start with a toothbrush. So male and female, forget the female, just male and female. When you brush your teeth in the morning, when you brush your teeth using the same hand, what tends to happen is you'll automatically go to one side first and then the other by default. Trust me, you'll just do it, okay? When you put mascara or makeup on, you'll do one eye first and then the other by default. For the men that shave, when you shave, you'll shave one side first and then the other, okay? When you watch TV, when you sit in the same chair all the time, I'm going to go through this in a lot more detail. This is what I want you to do in terms of exercising the mind. I want you to now think of brushing your teeth tomorrow morning or tonight, for those of you who do it twice a day or even 3 times a day, lunchtime. When you brush your teeth, what I want you to do, instead of actually brushing that side first, I want you to stop, pause, and do the other side first, okay? Now, the act of stopping and pausing and doing the other side will send your brain into a tiz or diz. You'll be discombobulated for a few seconds because you're not used to doing it. Remember the neural pathways that we had before, it's used to doing that automatically. And now we say, no, I don't want you to do that. I want you to do something. Same with mascara. Disclaimer, when you're doing mascara, be very careful. I don't want to be sued for you blinding yourself by doing the other eye first. Same with shaving, so you guys cut yourself. Do not blame me. Be very careful. These are ways to exercise the brain and create what I class as new neural pathways. So when I talk about exercising the brain, these are sort of things that you can do. I do this all the time, and all the time, challenge the brain. The brain's so used to doing what it does, it becomes lazy. When you start to learn something new, it kind of doesn't like it. It wants to go back to the old way of doing things, because it's easy. So when we shift, we're shifting it into a new neural pathway. Taxi drivers, just to show how much the brain is a muscle, taxi drivers who have done the knowledge, their hippocampus is huge. It's massive, because they've stored all that knowledge, all that information in the frontal lobes of their brain, which means it's bigger than anything else, which proves that the brain is plastic. If you're into neuroplasticity, read a book by Norman Deutsch. It talks about how the brain works. But we need to continue to exercise our brain and do things that will exercise our mind. Prepare your mind before you make a call. Rehearse what you're going to do. Rehearse how you're going to say it, what you're going to say, how you're going to say it. You don't know the outcome, but visualize what you're going to say and rehearse what you're going to say. And so it becomes part of who you are when you do come to do it. It's almost as if you've run that program before, you know what you're going to say, this is how it's going to roll. So practice what you're doing or what you're going to do before you actually do it. Okay, next slide, please. This visualizing your outcome, which is the sort of things that I just tapped into. You focus on succeeding, focus on winning, and focus on achieving. And, you know, I said to you before, assume the sale, assume that you're going to do it, okay? Whatever you believe with certainty becomes your reality. For those of you who don't know Brian Tracy, he has been around for a number of years. In fact, in the 80s, he produced a set of cassettes called Psychological Selling, which is really good. You know, what I teach people to do is not necessarily about the products and what they do and the services that they provide. I teach them how they can actually perform at a higher level than what they currently do. Next slide, please. Assume what they want to, assume that people want to buy from you before you make the call. It's not arrogant, but it's you putting yourself into a positive state of mind. It's not being arrogant. Assume that you have the best products. It's your job to ensure that you overcome their fears, the doubts, any objections. You're in control of the sales process. Your job is to lead them to buy from you. Next slide, please. So how do you connect and build rapport quickly? Well, some people are really good at doing this, right? So rapport is a skill in its own right. Next slide, please. Some people do it really well, having a common interest. I like to look at it in much more detail. I like to look at breathing. I like to look at the predicates, which is the visual, auditory, kinesthetic. I look at voice, tonality, timbre. I look at posture. I look at the facial expressions. We cover this in a lot more detail because rapport isn't just having a commonality or finding something in common. It's a lot more than that. Next slide, please. People buy when they trust you, and we know that physiology is important. We know that your voice is important. We know that words are important. So we combine all those three elements. It's important for you to say what you need to say. The paraphrasing is all about repeating what somebody has said to you, but using the exact same words, because our unconscious mind goes, well, hey, I really like that person. Well, of course they do, because you're using the same words. We cover that again in more detail on the course. Next question. Next slide, please. So some of the questions that you can ask to build rapport is write down a time when you felt really proud. Now, what I want you to do is that in a sales call, all you can do in a sales call, you can actually say, look, John, you know, just reflecting on my life, one of the things I was really proud of was X. And that made me feel really good. It's just way back when I think about it, and often to lift me. And you could just say to John, what is it? What is your proudest moment? Watch what happens when you do that to an individual. You can do that anytime throughout the sales call. What's your proudest moment? And you'll see somebody rise, and you'll see them talk about it, and you're shifting them. This is you being in control. And the same thing would apply with holidays, right? Rather than just say, where are you going on holiday? Oh, I'm going this place. Ask them, what's your favorite holiday destination? Watch what happens. They go back in time, recall the information, and they're living the whole experience. That's you in control of the sales call. But guess what? It's building rapport at a high level because they're doing the talking and you're doing the listening. Next slide, please. Are you searching for and asking for the order? Next slide. Remember what I said about the conscious mind, the unconscious mind. The top level is very, very small. The iceberg, tip of the iceberg, is where our mind sort of is doing what we're doing now, is listening to me. But deep beneath the surface, the subconscious mind, is where all the behaviors change. This is where we store the information, we store all our behaviors, we store all those negative behaviors, and also positive. So we need to focus on the positive side. And so whatever we do, whatever I'm talking to you about is actually tapping into the subconscious mind. That's where we can change our behavior to get a better outcome. Next slide, please. So we do this with something called our persuasive language patterns. And Milton Erickson had a way of actually talking to individuals. The individuals were based, so let's say the individuals are sat with Milton Erickson as a hypnotherapist, and he will talk to them in a very monotone way. What you'll notice is, from time to time, I'll either speed up or slow down. And you realize that this whole process, this whole sales webinar or understanding of neuro-linguistic programming, what you'll notice is it's really about you as an individual. It's about persuading, influencing, understanding yourself, and being a better version of who you are. And once you grasp that and realize that, you'll know what I'm talking about as far as NLP is concerned. Next slide, please. So the magic words are, imagine being in a situation where you're able to pick the phone up, speak to a client or a customer prospect, talk effortlessly and freely in a way that just allows you to sell at a much higher level. Imagine your manager looking at you going, wow, I don't know what's happened to that individual, but their confidence, the way that they actually talk, the way that they hold themselves, everything about them has just changed. Imagine your manager looking at you, seeing how you improve on your sales every single time you make a call. What you'll notice is, and realize, is that this stuff is a bit more than just your everyday sales calls. Next slide, please. These verbs, action verbs, are words that we use sometimes to actually embed commands. So I'll talk to you about John Lewis and Marks and Spencer's. Action verbs are buy that, sign here, do this, and so on, etc., etc. So that thing there, don't think of a pink elephant. In actual fact, we're sat on a pink background. And if I said to you, don't think of a pink elephant, fact is, don't think of a pink elephant means that you are going to think of a pink elephant. And I actually want you to get rid of that thought process completely. Delete it from your mind. Next slide, please. Hypnotic language patterns are really, and I'll just talk about this very briefly, right? So don't make a decision to buy now. This is you talking to a customer. Don't make a decision to buy now. Many of my customers tend to place an order first thing on a Monday morning. Just imagine how it feels collecting your new vehicle with no hassle, no complications, no headaches. And after receiving your vehicle, you'll notice how easy it is to deal with our after sales department and realize that you have definitely made the right decision with your purchase. Next slide, please. What we've done there is embedded a command. Don't make a decision to buy now. Place an order first thing Monday morning. Just imagine how it will feel, taking them into visualization. After receiving your vehicle, you'll notice and you'll realize, so this is after the sale. Everything there is about the assumption and that the sale is happening. It's very powerful. Hypnotic language is probably the most powerful way to actually persuade and influence people to actually buy. But we do it all day long, every day. It's not something that I'm sort of reinventing. It's done every single day. Coming up to the end now. Next slide, please. Summary, we've just talked about neuro-linguistic programming, how you can use to stay focused, razor-sharp mindset, believing in yourself, how to connect and build rapport. We can take it to another level by asking certain questions, and how assertive are you enough when asking for the order. Believe in yourself in terms of actually asking for the order, using some of the language patterns that we just spoke about. The next slide, please. So what are you going to get from the one-day course? You're going to get a deeper look at neuro-linguistic programming. You're going to look at modeling, how you can model the top performance. You're going to look at something called chunking, which is qualification process. We're going to look at language patterns and how we can influence and persuade people to buy what you want in an ethical way. I'll say ethical. Next slide, please. And then we're going to do something called the presuppositions. These are assumptions that we make when we're actually going into a sales call, whether it be physical or on the call. Rapport, how we step that up even further. And there's something called a 6-step sales process, actually, which is to remove ambiguity. Embedding commands, tag questions, and how you can develop yourself personally. That's kind of a whistle-stop tour, very, very quick introduction to what NLP is all about. And I think at this point, I'm going to pass you over to Tess. I hope you found that interesting, and I look forward to seeing you again. Questions? You're on.
I'm on mute. I was just singing your praises. Really, really interesting. Really interesting. Thank you so much, Roy. And I think it was a really good taster of what we can see in our full course. Looking at the Q&A, thanks for those that have submitted their questions. There are a couple, Roy. So I'll just pass over. So the first one was, what are the common outputs someone can expect after attending this course?
Okay, that's a really good question. So the outputs, common outputs are, to be honest with you, Tess, when people come on the course, they don't fully know what they're going to get out of it. It's only afterwards they go, wow, that was interesting. Because we're talking about behavior, because we're changing people's thought process, or getting them to think about things in a different way, to improve their performance, they go, wow. And they put it into practice as well. So some of the tools, strategies that we go through, they put into practice. Now, what happens on the course is, whilst we're doing, because there'll be breakout areas and people go into little areas and we'll do lots of exercises along the way, is it's okay talking about it, but when they practice it, they can see, wow, that actually works. And you get this sort of, I don't know how you get this sort of vibe in the training area, where people go, wow, that was really good. So the outcomes are positive, and there's a shift of individuals and their behavior.
Yeah, exactly. It's a mindset shift, isn't it? And we've seen it when we've done the training for one business, the shift in their focus for training, for looking at sales, looking at closing sales, that mindset is amazing. It changes so much for the better. So yeah, it's fantastic. The next one we've got is, what makes this course different from any other sales course? There's a few out there. So why would they come on this one?
Okay, there are lots of sales courses out there, and they're all good. They're all good. I've been on many sales courses throughout my years, 30 odd years, many sales courses. What's different about this course is that, as I said earlier on, I don't really focus on the industry per se. It's not about, lease rental and selling cars. It's about you as an individual. You can take this course and put it into any environment, any industry, any sector, and say, how are you going to improve your performance? What do you need? What tools and strategies do you need to improve your performance? And it doesn't matter where you are. So you could be on the bottom rung, you could be in the middle, you could be performing at a really high level. There's still room for improvement. So the course is different because it doesn't cover your standard sort of sales techniques, let's say. It's more like Brian Tracy, the psychology of selling and understanding yourself, understanding others, and then improving how you connect with individuals at a higher level than perhaps you have been doing up until now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that level up, I think, isn't it? And that deeper understanding that you might not get elsewhere. So yeah, thanks, Roy. And it's just been lovely, I think, to just give you a bit of screen time so people can actually meet you virtually. Because I think once you meet this man, you want to hear more from him. At least I do anyway. And thanks as well in the chat. I can see Nancy's just mentioned in the chat, thank you. It's a good refresher to my day course. So Nancy joined us on one of our training courses, our full day training courses. And I'm glad you enjoyed the refresher today, Nancy. Thank you. So yeah, we just wanted to also to share with you. There's another one in the chat. Sorry. Is there a course more specific to mind setting? I also am really interested in the hypnotic language. That hypnotic language, we look at that, don't we, in the full training course, Roy? We're looking at those magic words, etc.
Yeah, so there is a course, and there's the one-day course. Now we can't cover. I mean, to be honest with you, doing what I just did in 45 minutes is a struggle because it's huge. Neuro-linguistic programming is massive. So on the course, what we do is we cover the use of language, and as I say, the language that you will find used in large stores, I say large companies, John Lewis and Marks and Spencer's, I can mention. But we do exercises. We do an exercise where people have the opportunity to put in their own words the use of the words that we use. And there are lots of words that we can use. And then when they do this, and I've got to be honest with you, this part of the course is my favorite, because they break off into little groups. They put their own little script together and use the words in their voice, their style. And that for me is great. I love watching the outcome and the results from people doing that. So yes, you'll find out a little bit more about that on the one-day course.
Absolutely. Another question, when's the next course and how do I book? So when's the next course? I can answer that one. That's on the 23rd of September. We have already had some bookings through for that course, so definitely let us know if you're interested in how to book. So you can book directly on the website. There's the link at the bottom, just running across on the tape at the bottom. Equally, drop us an email, so training@bvrla.co.uk to do that. However, there is something really exciting that we can reveal for you guys attending the webinar today, and that is a discount code on Roy's courses, which I need to make sure I'm reading this right, because I don't want to get into trouble and offer you too much off. But the course, the code, is NLP15, and that's to get 15% off your delegate price on the training course, and that's on the 23rd of September. Those are for open courses, so if you want to just put a couple of people on, and that's where you would do it. Now, we also have the option of a driven by you training course. So for those that don't know, that is a course tailored completely to your business. So if you want Roy to come in person or do an online course where he comes in, understands about your business, and gives you what you need, the discount on that is actually 25% if you use the code NLP25. So get in touch with us, quote those course codes, and we can make sure that we organize those for you. As I'm sure you understand, there's a lot of people on this today, so demand's going to be quite high, so please just get in contact with us as soon as you can to secure those. We have 2 dates running, 23rd of September and then one in November. I believe it's the 11th of November. Yeah, absolutely. So just get in touch with us if you're interested. If you want to hear more from Roy, it's definitely a really exciting opportunity. Roy, is there anything else from you before we close?
Yeah, well, just before, you've still got quite a few people. Can I just ask a question? For the people that are on the course now, how many of you actually have had an understanding of NLP? Is there any way that somebody can put a
put in the chat box if you found that you do know NLP before this call, or if this has helped you in your understanding of NLP? Just pop it in the chat for us. Getting a couple through here. Yeah, perfect. I can see those. I can see those in the back. Good. I can see that this has definitely helped some people today. Andrew Fox giving us a thumbs up. Yeah, good. I'm glad. And I think it's an area that people don't know enough about. And I think once you do, like Roy said, it can change everything. Change your marriage in a positive way. Change how you're dealing with everyone.
I'm glad you said that, Tess, because people think that this is all business. It's not all business. It is think about it from a personal shift as well. Whatever that means in your personal life, it can come in handy.
Absolutely. I see that. This was a great refresher, says Abby. I did know. I'm intrigued. I did a day course quite a few years ago. Yeah, exactly. And things do change. I attended a course 10 years ago or so. It's really lovely to see that you're still interested in the topic, and hopefully it's been a really good refresher. Thanks so much, everybody that joined us today. Really, really, it was a pleasure. Thank you, Roy.
What's that question there? Follow-up question. Are these areas covered in your book? That's a that's that. I do cover some of the things that we spoke about in the book, and thank you for asking the question. But it's a way of driving you forward. It isn't about me selling my book, actually, but it is about finding out where your destination is. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. And just get in touch with us and secure your place. Thank you so much. And for those of you that have registered today, you will receive a recording of this webinar as well, so that you can refer back to it. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself and enjoy the sunshine. Thank you.